structural integration specialist. And what in the world is that?
Well, first of all, the name Hellerwork came from Joseph Heller, not the author of Catch-21. Joseph Heller was originally a Rolfer and the first president of the Rolf Institute. And how he came about it was that he went to a Rolfing demonstration when he was in the aerospace industry at NASA. At JPL. And he was the guinea pig. Ida Rolf worked on him for a half an hour. He got up off the table and said, "Wow, I feel so different. This is great. I got to learn how to do it." So he went off in his spare time, took the Rolfing training. Later on, left JPL to become a full-time Rolfer and the first president of the Rolf Institute. And as he was working with people, he discovered a lot of things that he wanted to add to it. He found that if he worked with breathing and relaxing and letting go, he could get in just as deep. And Hellerwork structural integration, like Rolfing, there are soft tissue, deep tissue techniques to work with the body to improve posture, alignment, flexibility, and get rid of chronic tension, stress, and pain. So anyway, when he was working with his clients in the early days, he discovered that if he stayed relaxed and breathed comfortably, deep belly breathing when he's working, he could get in deeper if he taught his patients how to breathe, relax, and let go. So the work became just as deep, but more comfortable for both him and his clients. He also found that a lot of times people would come see him and do a 10-session series, and they'd leave his office in great shape. Their posture was better, they felt better, had less aches and pains, better range of motion. They were performing better in their daily activities, whether they were working or at home or athletes. So they'd leave after a series of sessions and feel a lot better because they'd have their whole body work through. When we talk about structural integration, we're not talking about just working on your shoulder because it hurts, but we're talking about working on the whole body to create a more fluid range of motion without pain. So anyway, they'd come back in 6 months to 2 years with sometimes the same sort of aches and pains all over again, or they're back to where they started from a little bit. So he started educating his people as he was working with them to be aware of what their average state that they came in with was and what changes are taking place in the way they stood, their posture and alignment, the way they worked at their computers. Back in those days, it was typewriters. And what they did in their daily activities, how they performed their sports. What's different when they go through the series as compared to their old habits that they had before. So then they were becoming aware of like, oh, these are my old habits. These are the new, more efficient patterns of movement where I can do what I love to do in a more relaxed and efficient way and perform better. So the whole process became much more educational. In this process of working with people, he also was discovering that when he worked on certain parts of people's bodies, they tended to talk about the same thing. When he worked on people's feet, legs, and hips, quite often they ended up talking about whether they felt grounded or whether they felt centered, what was going on in their lives. So he started using these different themes, applying to different parts of the body he was working with, as a jumping off place to help people understand how emotions and attitudes affect levels of tension, stress, and pain. Now, what got me interested in all this was I met a friend of mine in college playing in big bands. As I got to know this trumpet player, Dan Bienenfeld, I found out that over the years that Joseph Heller had straightened his scoliosis when he was in high school, and he thought that was really cool. So much so that when he graduated from college, he was going to become a Hellerwork practitioner, and that was going to be his career. I didn't think much of it at the time. I moved to Los Angeles to play saxophone. He moved here to continue playing trumpet for fun and also start his Hellerwork practice. So after a couple of years, he twisted my arm and talked me into coming in for a Hellerwork series. And I thought, sure, this is great. You know, at the time, I had been doing yoga for a little over 3 years. My progress in yoga was slow and painful, but it was making a huge difference in my life.
Right.
I could wake up in the morning touching my shins, and after an hour and a half of yoga, after 3 years of doing it 5 or 6 times a week, I was getting almost to my toes after an hour and a half of yoga. Well, what I noticed as I was going through this series with them was that partly my body had been really tight from years of running and surfing and never really stretching effectively. That's why the yoga helped. But by the time I had about 5 hour-and-a-half sessions, I was waking up in the morning touching my toes, and with the hour and a half of yoga, I was getting my hands flat on the floor, and my progress was accelerated dramatically because of the work I was doing in Hellerwork. In the process, I changed my standing balance and my alignment, my posture, whether I was standing playing saxophone or whether I was running. I changed my whole gait in running from what I learned and was taught by Dan Bienenfeld with the Hellerwork process. I started running more efficiently. I stopped having knee pain. I stopped having low back pain because I was running out of alignment, causing pain. That's a whole other lecture. So I was a big fan of Hellerwork. I was surfing better. I was managing my stress better as a musician. My friends noticed I was performing better as a saxophone player. And my friend Dan kept saying, Tom, this is great. You really get this Hellerwork stuff. You should be a Hellerwork practitioner during the day and play your saxophone at night. And that sounded pretty good. When I turned 30, I was looking at starting my first family and had a son on the way. And I thought, I'm still not making enough money as a saxophone player. Maybe I ought to give this Hellerwork thing a try. Because like Dan says, I get it. And so I did the Hellerwork training back in 1985. And I've been doing it ever since. The only casualty is that I got so involved with my family over the years that I don't play saxophone as much. Although when I get my next daughter off to college, I hope to play a little more saxophone. I keep up my surfing, largely due to the things I learned in Hellerwork that keep me fluid and flexible and relaxed, as well as keeping up my practice in yoga. The Hellerwork helps me keep up my practice in yoga.
So, hearing about all your pain disappearing, it's still that way, and you're able to just keep doing what you love to do through Hellerwork.
Absolutely. For instance, last year I did a lot of work driving to San Diego to fix up my mom's house to rent after she passed away. And I finished all that June 1st, and I thought, great, I'm going to get back to doing more yoga and surf more. And I was feeling exhausted when I was going surfing. And my yoga felt like, oh gosh, this is just not moving. So I went and got a couple of Hellerwork sessions. All of a sudden my yoga starts moving again. I start making progress again. And I have a lot more energy in the water already.
That's awesome.
So I'm still a big fan of Hellerwork. Still a big fan of yoga. And I feel like I have to practice what I preach a little bit so I can keep surfing and hopefully playing more saxophone eventually and continue to do the things that I love to do. And that's what I love to share with people. I started out working in a practice that Dan Bienenfeld had set up with holistic setting with holistic MDs, acupuncturists, chiropractors, and we had probably 10 Hellerwork practitioners, sometimes 12, in West Los Angeles. And so over the years, I got used to working with a lot of people with injuries, whether they were athletes or people having surgeries for different accidents they were in. So I really like helping people that come to me and they've been everywhere else for treatment, but they still haven't had the type of care and approach of the whole body alignment and releasing some of the patterns that get stuck in the deep tissue of the fascia when a body's healing. So I like those challenges, as well as just helping everybody perform better in whatever it is they love to do.
So I'm glad you brought up chiropractors, because how is your practice different from chiropractic or physical therapy? Because it all kind of sounds the same, but it's not, right?
Right. The focus in Hellerwork is working with the deep tissue in the body called fascia. Well, it starts at the surface layers under the skin at what supports the blood vessels, the fat cells under the skin. It blends down into layers of tissue. And it's a cottony fibrous tissue. Ideally, it's very fluid and flexible, but when we get stiff and tight, or we have scar tissue healing lays down more of those cottony fibers, and they get stiff and stuck so they don't move as well. And we go in and take the time. I generally spend an hour and a half with people when I work with them. So I have time to work the different planes of fascia from the surface layers deeper into the all the way down to the bones. There's thin layers of fascia around the bones called periosteum. But it's a continuous weave throughout the body, and that's why when you have a shoulder pain, sometimes that pulls down somewhere else in your body, or if you've been limping around on a bad foot or a bad knee or a bad hip, that tension spreads throughout the fascia and becomes stiff and rigid and locks you up. So when I'm doing the soft tissue work with people, it makes it easier to get a chiropractic adjustment. And it also helps those adjustments stay longer. Plus, I'm working on re-educating people so that they're using their bodies more efficiently, so that it helps their chiropractic, it helps their Hellerwork, their massage therapists say, wow, what are you doing? All of a sudden this stuff's resolving and you're getting better. Well, go talk to Tom, he's my Hellerwork practitioner. And I love sharing the work with chiropractors, massage therapists. Rolfing got its start in probably the 50s and 60s, and I think in the 60s and 70s they were doing a lot of Rolfing trainings, and they still do them today. Brilliant program. Hellerwork has been around since the early 70s, early to mid 70s. There was a number of bodywork techniques that developed out of Rolfing. We all worked together under the International Alliance of Structural Integrators to help promote structural integration, no matter which branch, to get the word out there. Because a lot of people have still, people my age, a lot of people, maybe 50% of them have heard about Hellerwork, especially if they've been near a city somewhere, but a lot of people haven't heard of it yet.
Not at all. I hadn't heard about it until I met you.
Yeah.
And education is very important to me, and reaching out to clients and making sure they understand why they're doing what they're doing. Why do they have to do 50 billion squats, and
right.
What's going on with that? So how are you educating your clients on what they should not be doing, how they should be breathing? Because breathing we don't think about.
Right. Whether it's yoga or working with trainers such as yourself, I'm really big on belly breathing. I learned how to belly breathe in elementary school playing saxophone, but it wasn't until I was getting Hellerwork in my mid-20s that I realized that, if I just belly breathe through everything I do, I not only perform better, but I'm more relaxed, I deal with stress more effectively. And breathing is something that should be done with whatever exercise we're doing. A lot of the problems I have with, say, people, I had a client come in recently that's working both with physical therapists and chiropractors, and he's recuperating from surgeries, but he's overtraining. And I said, you're working with great physical therapists. All you need to do is go back and talk to them and say, this is what's happening, and I'm getting inflamed from doing a little too much. We need to dial it back. And I know that they can help you, so go back and do whether they're working with you or somebody else. It's a matter of, those tissues from my Hellerwork perspective are going to continue to be inflamed unless you slow down. I'm also going to coach you on working with your belly breathing as you're doing things. We're also going to talk about how you do your ergonomics at work if you're flaring something up just from driving too much or from sitting at the computer the wrong way. So there's a lot of ways we can all work together to support each other, getting our clients getting the most out of them. So I'm always into working with people and integrating these approaches, whether it's massage, physical therapy, chiropractic, trainers of the different types, So.
That's really quite incredible how you can take your practice and really get into those soft tissues, and then how it expands into the physical therapists and the chiropractors, and how it becomes a full body from bones to tissue to looking good or whatever the person desires.
Right. Yeah, and like next week I'm reviewing another visceral manipulation class where we look at the fascial planes between and around the organs in the abdominal cavity. This one focuses on the lower abdominal cavity, but if you have something dysfunctional in your internal organs, that can spread out into the musculoskeletal fascia. So sometimes you have to find out where the problem is coming from. And we can also work with those type of gentle techniques to ensure proper movement in the thoracic thoracic cavity or the abdominal cavity or even the cranial cavity, um, and to help facilitate. The other thing too that sometimes I get somebody in that hasn't been seeing and consulting their doctor enough. If I'm getting too much heat off of an organ or something's restricted in an area, where I'll refer them right back to their doctor to make sure that they don't have something that needs to be checked out and don't have some other kind of problem going on. So we can sometimes detect stuff like that that maybe has gone unnoticed and make sure they get back into the right doctor to be evaluated.
That's awesome. I love your sense of teamwork and really getting people exactly what they need to be functioning and pain free.
Right.
That's really incredible. Is there anything else we should know about Hellerwork or know about you?
Well, I think I still love music and surfing and yoga, and those are a lot of the things that sort of inspired me involved in Hellerwork. Anything else? I love working with musicians and dancers and actors. I have friends of mine that I grew up with that are modern dancers, and so I have a lot of experience working with musicians, actors, and dancers, and I have different ideas about posture and alignment for performers and how to get that relaxed, fluid line, how to be free up a performance, and be present in that. I have friends that are acting coaches and choreographers and different things, and it's very fun to interact in that, helping people be more expressive and more creative in what they do. What's blocking that creativity? How do we get that moving, get that inspiration through the whole body?
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Very much so.
Yeah, literally get the creative juices flowing.
And I joke with people and say that, if I had become a Hellerwork practitioner, I probably would have died of a heart attack 2 years ago. But it's fun, and especially interacting with the whole holistic community. I've been doing that for so long that I find I can direct people to different practitioners or to do research or to consult more effectively with their own doctors too sometimes to get the treatment that they need.
That's pretty phenomenal.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah.
And, I think the other thing too, I like having fun. If I can't go to work and have fun with people, I might as well be doing something else. And
yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah, I know you do because you bring that to your work and everything you do.
It's true. I did think about coming to this wearing a tutu. That did cross my mind.
But you have to save that for some other projects we have coming up.
I am going to save the tutu for a different project. It may be quite soon that it comes out. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Perfect.
So who are your favorite people to work with? Are they the dancers and musicians and performers?
I've worked with everybody from 6-month-old babies to people in their 90s, and anybody who's comes in with an open mind is great. But sometimes it's really satisfying when somebody comes in not thinking I'm nuts or whatever they're trying is nuts, and all of a sudden they're feeling better and things are happening and they're opening up, they're trying new things. So it doesn't really matter to me. I'm working with a high school student right now and also some people in their late 60s and 70s, and we're having some fantastic results. I like challenges too once in a while. I had a guy that has legs crushed that thought he was going to have them amputated. The surgeons did brilliant work and saved his legs, literally saved his legs. But after a year of therapy, he came in with a lot of pain. And his ankles were literally this big around.
Oh my goodness.
Within 10 sessions, we got his ankles almost down to normal size, and he was walking without a cane and without pain.
Wow.
That was fantastic, but I think you have to give credit to these surgeons. And he'd also had some good physical therapy, but I was actually able to just slow it down and work with pumping the fluids through and getting some movement where they hadn't been able to focus, because I'm focusing on a fascia in a different way than a lot of the other therapists were doing exercise therapy, which he definitely needed, no doubt about it.
Right.
but nobody had paid attention to this intricate network of fascia that is all about structural integration in Hellerwork. It is all about working with the fascia. The blood vessels flow through planes of fascia. The nerves flow through planes of fascia. Fat cells are suspended in this cottony fascia network. And even the skinniest of us have, lots of fat cells around the heart and the fascia around the heart. And the most skinny people, so we all have fat cells. And they all serve a function, and here it protects the heart.
Right.
Cushions it.
Which is a good thing.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
do want fat around the heart, keep it nice and safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Tom, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this and be so candid about what you do. And obviously your passion is there, and you just love working with people and getting them to perform in the best way their bodies can.
Well, thank you for hosting me here. You make it so easy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.